So if you think of like any kind of aholicisms, any kind of addiction, it typically is when the reinforcement loop for whatever the behavior is, whether it's drinking, drugs, it's swearing, whatever, gets in the way of your larger goals. And so if you can drink, but it doesn't interfere with your marriage, your work, your social life, then you're a responsible drinker. And for some people, that might be so to me, again, there's the medical definition, but I would say the way that I would see the behavior is that if someone has zero interference, so if it's not affecting their health. Now, if it doesn't affect anything else, but it does affect your health, then it's aversive to your long-term goals. But if you find a way, it's very difficult, obviously, because it does have aversive effects on your health, but just to use a simple example. But if you found a way to drink that somehow didn't impact your health and you were able to do so regularly and it didn't impact work, life, marriage, whatever, then I would say that you are not necessarily addicted because in a negative way, because nothing bad has happened. And it's not taking anything away from you. If the pursuit of money, right, which in the Bible is the pursuit of money, that's the root of all evil, not money itself. If the pursuit, or rather the love of, but whatever. If that cycle becomes too reinforcing that you neglect your other duties that, like your marriage or your kids or your health, then that is when this thing has become too powerful.
So then I think I made a mistake by asking you like a Sophie's choice, power or peace?
Yeah.
But if you were, that was a terrible first question, by the way.
That was great.
If you're staying here, thanks for bearing with me.
I think if I said I reject the premise would have been a tough first response.
That would have just been a cut.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in your household, what is it that you envision, and what is it that because like for mine is to love God and to love my neighbors. Mm-hmm. Is there rules or a regulation that you live by?
I would say Layla and I have agreed on, a lot of things, but a big one, I think that's a credo of ours, is leave it better than you found it. And so that's people, the earth, all the employees of our company, all the customers, anyone who interacts with us, if we can leave them better than we found them or they found us, then we will be a net positive overall. And that means if we go to Whole Foods and grab food, then it means that we'll clean the table, even if the table's dirty, we'll put the chairs back. Just very small things like that, but I think taking in aggregate over a long period of time. And those are things that I look forward to, teaching my child. Fingers crossed everything works out.
I pray it does.
Yeah.
That's a great value mindset. Yeah. But can I ask you, so when it comes to that and it comes to even chasing money so that, it doesn't overtake you, who do you think keeps you accountable? Do you feel like it's only yourself that's keeping you accountable? Your wife? What if one of you guys fall short of that?
And even again, not to reject the premise, but it's not that I chase money per se. The options were peace and money and power, which I see as potential or self-satisfaction, like ability to save millions of people or just helping myself. This one I can have my cake and eat it too. This one I would just help me. I'd rather do this one. In terms of my, daily activities, I chase things that I'm interested in, that I'm good at, more than anything. Why? I think the core of the question that you originally asked is why do you do what you do? I do what I do because I'm rewarded for doing it. That's why I do it.
Hey, this video.
Cycle of reward that you're accustomed to either becomes too latent, so too far in advance, not intense enough, or you habituate to it, or it stops happening. So there's all four of those scenarios are basically what used to feel good when you do something doesn't feel as good now that you've done it 100 times. And this is basically the hedonic cycle. And so it also works in equal opposite, which is if you punish a child or you punish anyone in the same way, eventually you habituate, you get used to it. And so in order for punishment to be effective, you have to change variety and intensity of punishment in order for it to keep working, right? And so again, the same thing happens with reward. And so when we get burned out, we used to do these things and we used to get this satisfaction out of it. And now I do these same things and I don't get that same satisfaction. And so we feel burnt out. So basically it's the experience of an extinction curve on a behavior. Now, where it gets tougher is where you have other contingencies that make it difficult for you to leave. And so you have competing priorities. And so it's let's say you have a family who relies on you, and you had this job. And when you started it, you had to do these activities and it rewarded you. But over time, people just started to expect you to do it. They stopped saying good job, or just the nature of the work. It no longer was challenging for you because you got so good at it that it wasn't, again, the challenge itself is rewarding when you overcome it. So there's lots of reward cycles that happen on a daily basis. But anyways, as you continue to work, now let's say the job is zero satisfaction, but it still pays you. And so there still is a reinforcer that occurs. And reinforcement just means anything that makes a behavior happen more. That's it. Anything that does that is a reinforcer. And so getting paid is a great reinforcer for doing something, but it's still all the other reinforcers in the job might have gone away. And so your family might have expectations, which also rule following for you as a global thing, because I have an identity as a good father, a good provider, that I have a rule that if I were to not provide for my family, it would be against this rule I've made for myself and this identity, this label that I've scrapped for myself. And me just thinking about the fact that I'm a good provider gives me reward. It reinforces me. And so what happens is when we quote like shift behavior over time, it's we create a label. Like what you want if you want to change someone's behavior is you give them a label that they can live up to, and then you align the actions. You do this, you are this type of person. And then eventually they begin to do other things because they like the label, because the label itself is reinforced. Basically 5 years in the pursuit of peace or happiness or satisfaction, whatever version of that word, and we can get more specific if we want to, but and that was unfruitful for me. And so I decided to forego the path of chasing happiness and peace and started chasing something that I could do rather than something that I could feel. And when I started shifting all of my behavior and all my learnings around what can I do and focusing on only those things, I started getting satisfaction as a result. And so then that became a huge shift in my worldview of like, I will just focus on the things that I can see with my eyes and do with my hands. And that's basically, and the reason I think the books and the content, things like that, is that I only describe the world in words that people can understand with their eyes and their ears and their hands. And that's what allows for really clear communication and a high percentage of communication translating to the other person. And this is why I think I would say that if I were ever against anything, it would be vague language. It's just terms that people use that sound good, rhetoric, putting words together that alliterate or that rhyme, but doing it in a way that people are like, oh, that sounds really good, but they don't know what it means. And so they can't really take any action. I have such respect for it, deference for it, that like if I were to say I am a Christian, then it means that I believe that Jesus is God, and all of my actions would stem from that. Now, I was a born-again Christian, and I did have this for a period of my life, and it did change my behavior dramatically. Whatever level of motivation you think I have now, it was 10 times bigger then. And I remember having a desire to make money that was way bigger than what I have now, by orders of magnitude. I remember reading a book called Kings and Priests, because I originally, when I came to the faith, I think I was 22-ish, I think it was right in there. I was like, oh, I guess I should just get into ministry. I should spread the good news. Like, this is amazing. Like, who doesn't want Jesus? Everyone needs this. And I had the pastor, I think, that I was with at the time, he said, hey, read this book. And it was called Kings and Priests. And it basically said that there's different roles for people in the kingdom. And he's like, you're clearly skilled in this business stuff, and you have a knack for it, you have a loving for it, whatever. You should probably consider, like, make the gold, donate it to the kingdom, like allow the kingdom to flourish. And so I was very dedicated during that season of my life, which was like, okay, how can I live on 10%, donate 90? How can I, like, every single day I would wake up and make an entire loaf of peanut butter sandwiches so that on my way to work, every homeless person that I saw, I could roll down this sounds silly, right? But I was 22 years old, and to put this in perspective, like, I wouldn't take my shirt off during that period when I was at like a pool party because I didn't want the other guys to feel bad. Again, not in an arrogant way at all. I was like, I just don't want, I was like, they will feel worse. Yeah. I was like, they will feel worse. And who am I serving here? Mm-hmm. Am I serving my ego by taking my shirt off? Like, what am I, you know what I mean? And so, I was 100% all in, 100% submitted, to Jesus, to God, during that season. And there's a number of reasons that I fell away from that, but I define belief as acting as if, and that seems like it's like a pretend, but I don't mean it like that. It's more that if an alien comes on Earth, doesn't know anything, and I were to describe a true Christian's behavior, so they could say, this is a Christian, then they would behave as if Jesus was the Son of God and died for their sins. And again, I'm not saying there is no salvation through acts. I understand that. But if you really, when in the Bible, it's truly changing your heart, right? Which I see from a literal sense as changing your global reinforcer, is that when I was in this period, all acts I took was pleasing my Father. And so all I could think about was pleasing him. I cared nothing for man. I cared for man to please my Father, not because I cared about what the other man thought. And so I would say that a large percentage of behaviors that I learned in that period of time is how I act now. And I think